Sports, comedy, pop culture, and everything in between. By idiots, for idiots. Welcome, sinners. This is Sports Idiot Nation.
Welcome into Sports Idiot Nation. Today is June 26th. We are in the middle of the NBA draft. Very exciting. Some exciting whites maybe getting drafted tonight. But we are here to recap the NBA season, put a nice little bow on it. This is Sports Idiot Nation. I am Adam Marino, joined by a miles behind enemy lines. And we have a lot to get through if we are doing a NBA recap from the 20th Game 7 in NBA Finals history to Joker's historic run of 61 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, triple-double. LeBron James, 40-year-old, getting triple-doubles. Just everything going on this season, all the storylines. Let's get through it. Let's start with the standings. So the Utah Jazz bringing up the rear, 17 wins, 65 losses. Let me ask you this first. The Wizards right behind them and the Hornets. Out of the Jazz, Wizards, and Hornets, we know about the recent trades and all that. Again, with the draft, it's hard to say because these guys, they haven't played in the NBA yet. We do know with some of these trades, they have played in the NBA yet. So it's easier to talk about those guys. Which team has a better chance of not losing 60 games next year?
Well, Utah, I think definitely because they're in the West. I think the Hornets, and I feel like the Hornets are a team most people think are always 1 year away from being in the play.
How
which
long?
Is still quite embarrassing. Is
for
that
10 years they've been there, right? And
they have a
LaMelo Ball is fun to watch.
They have a ball.
And he's not a winning player. He's fun to watch. He is very, like, if I'm watching NBA TV and they got Lakers versus Thunder on and I'm watching it, and then they cut to, and Greg Anthony's talking about, oh, we're going to cut to now, and for 5 minutes, I'll watch LaMelo Ball. Like, because I want to see if he's going to go behind the back or if he's going to throw a nice alley-oop or hit a three from half court. It's like an MTV rock and jock.
He's going to turn 30 and they're going to say, this is finally going to be his breakout year. And the Hornets are going to break through and be a contender in the East. It's not going to happen. But if you put him in a pod with Utah and Washington, I like my odds on Charlotte just because of him and Utah, Colin Sexton versus the West. That's not going to pan out very well. They didn't get Cooper Flagg, who I thought was going to be the adopted Mormon if they actually won the lottery. And obviously,
he's an exciting
lottery.
White.
He is an exciting white. He looked good in a suit and skinny black tie, and put him in a tandem and go knock on front doors or walk around college campuses preaching to his fellow brethren. In any case, now that he's going to be in this state, Utah is going nowhere fast. I thought growing up, Utah was always the most averagest of the teams, even when they made the finals when I was younger, or even when they were a high seed.
Well, they were good.
They were good, but no one ever thought they were going to win a championship. They're just, they're just mountaineers out there. They good, yeah, they're decent. It's like, a nice bowl of cereal. It's good, but is it the best meal of the day? No, it's good. But now that they've actually cratered, they're, I think, going to be in oblivion for a while until they're not. Washington, this is going to be a year in, year out thing. I thought a couple years ago that they had a roster that was going to break through and surprise some people. That never came to fruition. Detroit was the team out of those Cellar Dwellers over the last few years. In the East, that is, that broke out. Obviously Houston, but I'm just talking exclusively about the East. Charlotte and Washington year over year are always at the bottom. But I think if there's a team that's not going to lose 60 next year, it'll be Charlotte, but they'll still lose 55 games.
Yeah, maybe 59, but at least, all right, it's a shit in the right direction. All right, let me ask you this. What is the shade that SGA gets? I'm not saying it's not deserved. I'm not saying it is deserved. but he does get it. Is it because he's 154 pounds? I mean, let's look at his season. So scoring title, plus 30 points a game, MVP, finals MVP. The guy had what only like 3 or 4 other people have done in the NBA in history. LeBron hasn't done it. Like, it's him, Michael Jordan, like Kareem, like that might be it. Like, so why is he getting all this shade? Like, boring and can you put your finger on it?
Well, you just said the word. It's damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you have a huge personality, then you're a diva. You have a huge ego. It's all about you, and that's similar to what LeBron has gotten throughout his career. Even though he's far from the most boisterous guy, he's just been the face of the league for damn near 2 decades now. I mean, at least a decade and a half past Kobe. But if they have this large ego, you're hated. But if you're as quiet and as mundane as the city of Oklahoma City is, SGA really is a perfect fit for that town. It's hard to call a city. It's more of Oklahoma town. Then you're just kind of there. Like, oh man, he's mundane. He drives the lane. He's bringing back the mid range, but anytime he tries to drive the cup, he'll throw it up there. He gets the call, and yeah, superstars do. He's a superstar now. That's obvious, and he's going to be a Hall of Famer because every NBA MVP of all time has made the Hall of Fame because it's so easy to make the NBA Hall of Fame. Okay, he's just there. We want more flash. We want more flair. But if he has that, then you're going to hate him anyways, or at least half the population's going to hate him. The other half now.
I almost feel bad, like that I'm not like all in on SGA, and it's like it's unfair. You could come at me very easily and say, "How could you not be?" And I'd be like, "I don't know." Like I mean, don't.
Another factor, and I'm a bit of a homer. One, he went to Kentucky, so the state of Indiana obviously hates him. We talked about this on a prior podcast, but 90% of the country doesn't care about the state of Indiana either. That's us. But most of the country knows he's Canadian, and he's one of those guys that's helping Canada actually break through and be, I don't know, a 10 to 12 point threat of the United States in the Olympics, maybe. And so I think he'll actually start catching more flack once the Olympics are in LA in 2028, and he's only going to be a few years older, and he's still going to be balling out at that time.
Killer.
So yeah. I think people that are shady with him now, just wait. When he's not only going to be better, but he's going to be playing against the red, white, and blue for the Maple Leafs. But he really is as boring as Oklahoma City. He's as boring as the entire state of Kentucky. He's as boring as the state of Canada. So he really fits the mold of his own background. So whatever. He's just kind of there. If Oklahoma, the entire state, fell off the map, I wouldn't even notice it. And I live an hour away. Kentucky, definitely. Canada, 51st state or not, we forget you're there most days. And again, I always make the joke, like the Minnesota Vikings, every day millions of Americans forget about the Minnesota Vikings. Well, every day millions of Americans forget about Oklahoma or Canada. And he just kind of fits that. I saw an interview, and I'm starting to get that in some of my feeds, some things for Texas and then Oklahoma too. And obviously with them making the finals, it's popping up more. And they had a sit-down interview with him and asked him 5 questions. Are you truly an Oklahoman? And they ask him things locally, and what's the best ice cream here? Brahms. Well, that's actually out of Oklahoma City. They have them right down the street from me as well. I'd never heard of it. The ice cream in their breakfast is nuts. It is badass. They asked him, what's the best ice cream here? Brahms. It's like he knows the answer. He fits the mold. He knows it. But God damn, this dude's boring. Like, could you imagine going on a first date with him? I mean, you and I don't swing that way, but to the ladies, the 5 ladies out there that actually watch our podcast, like, you want to date this dude, you're in it for the money, obviously. It ain't the personality.
Yeah, no kidding. Miles giving the Charles Barkley San Antonio women take. Remember when Charles Barkley just took a deuce all over San Antonio? Ain't nobody go to San Antonio. Their women are big. And then every time they did a game in San Antonio, like, yeah, and every time they'd be like, "Oh, Charles, you gonna say something more about San Antonio?" Oh yeah, let me say something more. They are terrible. It is terrible. They are nothing in San Antonio. Like, that's kind of, you went that way.
Some hot sauce a break, my man.
Yeah. All right, let's remind people first to check the link to get all things Sports Idiot Nation. Remember to follow us on wherever you get your social media. New shows are every Monday and Thursday. And keep in mind, big announcement is still yet to come next month regarding season dose. We are putting a bow on the NBA season. I want to talk some of the trades that worked and some that didn't. I loved, well, I didn't love at first the Jimmy Butler ordeal. And because I was worried that the diva type thing, and when you see memes of, remember when he had his hair like for a photo shoot, he was like a rocker and had like all this hair.
Yes.
And it was just, and then you put that meme up and put a Warriors jersey on him and like, you're getting a diva. And then he came and balled out. And
Right.
the only time that I was super disappointed is playoff Jimmy didn't show up when Steph Curry got hurt and you needed him. Even Dwayne Wade commented and said, I thought, come on, this is playoff Jimmy. We need you to drop 45 points. And he was a no-show. But other than that, I will say, and I'm in the Facebook pages of the Warriors and I'm up on, what they're doing. They were really happy with Jimmy. And I wonder what that's going to look like going into the season as everyone gets older. The West is getting like more bizarre by the minute. I don't know if I'm all in on the Warriors next year as far as being excited for the team. I'm all in. It's my team. But what's your take on what the Warriors did with Jimmy Butler?
Well, I think it's interesting with all the drama that happened in Miami and everything that went down, which of course to me is going to blow it out of proportion for what it actually is. I mean, similar to things with Kyrie. And then he gets to Dallas and things kind of chill out and he actually does pretty well until he goes down this past year and is going to be out for at least the 2025 portion of this next season. But in any case, with Jimmy Butler, he did his thing, and it's like the biggest gripe you got, yes, it's vital. The whole reason you have him there is a night that Steph's either off or definitely needs complimented. You need Jimmy Butler to step up. But I think it's getting exacerbated probably on your end because of the drama that did happen earlier in the year. So now it's twofold. And most people that aren't going to remember, that are not obviously Warriors fan, they aren't going to remember everything that happened in between, that he did show up and show out. He's too old. He can't get it done. He's a head case. He caused drama in Miami. He let Golden State down when it really mattered. But I think you're still going to see it this next season in a positive light, that the Warriors are still going to hang around. They're still going to be a factor. Yes, you have the greatest shooter God's ever made, but I think Jimmy Butler is going to be fine. He's going to be settled in. He's meshing with the team all right, and it's only one more year that he's going to be able to really gel with that team. I don't think his age. I mean, nowadays we're talking about Chris Paul coming to Dallas, and the dude's 40.
Right.
6, no, he's actually 40, but it feels like he's in his late 40s. So I think with Jimmy Butler, I think it's going to be fine coming the next year. Your expectations are real. No one's going to expect the Warriors to make the finals or let alone win a championship. But as long as you get in the playoff hunt, you saw it this year with both Minnesota and Golden State. You have a chance. Jimmy
the Pacers.
Right. East. But the West is going to be more of a slugfest. We assume. We'll see. But we assume throughout the regular season, for sure, it's going to be more of a slugfest, especially with Halliburton out in the East. The East is going to be something else that we'll talk about later in other syncasts. But Jimmy Butler, just go out and do your thing. He doesn't have to even produce the way he did this last year. Get into the postseason. Anything can happen. And I think we learned that this year, and we're seeing more and more parity now, this being 9 out of the last 12 years that we've had a new champion. And that's not typical for the NBA. The David Stern years and the 3 decades he was commissioner, less teams won championships than we've seen over the last decade and change. Golden State, I think you'll be fine as long as you just expect the team, hey, win 45 to 50 ball games, and you're going to have an opportunity to make some noise in the postseason.
So I want to talk through some of these injuries that you mentioned, and I want to ask you, if you were the commissioner, is there any changes that you would make? Like, I get that you want to have as many games as possible because that's your revenue stream. And so I get that. I'm not saying they're going to go from 82 games to like 70 games necessarily, but if money wasn't an object, or there was a way that you could still make a lot of money off 70 games or something like that, is there something that you can do? Because these blowout type injuries that is supposed to be for like older people, you're getting people in their 20s to have blowout type injuries, from Dre Greenlaw in the Super Bowl to Jason Tatum to Tyrese Halliburton to Dame Lillard, where you had maybe a handful of these injuries in a 10-year span. And then Kobe got it, and he was old when he got it. And now you're getting these young guys. At some point, you're already doing load management. Like, what are we doing?
I think a lot of it has to do with the scheduling. They've actually revamped the scheduling. A lot of people aren't paying attention to that. They, back in the day, had more days off, and now they're trying to cram games in a week and then on the back end stretch things out, and I don't think that's working out. Also, I think the freedom of movement, the more less defense, yeah, can't say that right enough, is actually having some blowback. I think if they actually allow the game to be more physical, it will change the style of play, and actually the more physicality that's allowed makes it so people don't get hurt, because you have more of an expectation of it. The way you're flowing, and then actually once it does happen, now when you have freedom movement without the expectation of it, then you make more people vulnerable to these types of injuries. So I think by being more laissez-faire about what physicality you allow, you're setting people up for failure when it does actually occur.
So, two things about that. One, it's interesting that the team concept and the way that the refs called these playoffs have been very different than what we were used to. The way that the playoffs were called is not how the regular season was called. And if they are called moving forward, then I am more all in the NBA if it's going to be called like it was called in the playoffs, and they're more consistent with it. I thought that was a good thing. The other thing is that when David Stern was commissioner, there was, I think, like 3 or 4 teams on his watch in 90 years that won the championship. And now
it felt like it.
It felt like
Chicago,
it, right?
LA, San Antonio.
And now with Adam Silver, in 15 years, you've had 16 champions, it feels like. Now, not only is that not possible, but but you get
It's
my point.
Hyperbole.
That is fair. So, I'm an idiot. Basically, which NBA do you prefer?
The 90s. Because I don't care who wins the championship, because I'm really not that too deep into it. Of all 4 major sports,
Right.
the NBA is my least favorite. But part of that is because of what the league has become. I was all in it when the NBA was on NBC. We're getting that back. So we are checking one box to bring it back. And then
Yeah.
we also did see some glimpses in the playoffs of them actually returning to the former style of NBA we had. Holy hell, look at what happened in the Eastern Conference Finals. Look at what happened in the NBA Finals. It was a lackluster finish because of that major injury to Halliburton. Bin Laden, I believe is his name. But he crashed and burned it.
Hallowed be thy name. Oh.
His kingdom didn't come this year, maybe next year. But what we are able to now diagnose going forward is when you do that, we can have more competitive games. You're going to get more eyeballs. That was the most watched NBA Finals game in a long time, Game 7 that was. But because the players weren't conditioned for that type of physicality, to my point, to your point, kind of concluding and putting a better bow on what I was trying to say is they weren't ready. He wasn't ready. And not just him, but a number of these players late in the season where the schedule was changing up on them. You have more physical ball. It's overall better for the eyeballs and better for the game, but you got to do it for all whatever 98 to 100 some odd games you're playing if you include the play-ins and postseason. It's got to revert back, and if that means and it won't, you know what, it won't mean going back, because how the structures of CBAs are, it's totally different than what it was in the 90s. I don't want to revert back to that. We can be a league that has more parity as we have now, but still be more physical and still have, better representation of a league on a network that actually knows how to portray the NBA in a good light and actually allows crowd noise in. We actually had that like for one game when the game San Antonio actually played in the Alamo Dome the other year. ESPN/ABC let the crowd noise in, and it was one of the most entertaining games to watch. It was like a 30-point blowout because you actually felt that
It was
not
so
only nostalgia,
weird.
but felt like you were there. You felt like you were there. So the way that the NBA had been portrayed lately has been hot garbage. So we'll see going forward. We need a more physical NBA. We are men. We are Americans. We like physicality. You got to have it. This NBA playoffs showed it. The injuries you can mitigate if you actually condition your players for that. I don't think the lack of parity will follow.
Well, I overall, I never assume that my team is going to win the championship at the beginning of the year, no matter, even if I'm favored. And I've had teams that have been favored with the 49ers and the Warriors. I really have. And the Giants won it 3 times in 5 years, and they weren't necessarily favored either of those years.
So they were favored in the years they didn't win. Right. The odd years. It was odd.
Yeah. But because it's, look, you have a 1 in 30 chance to win the championship. It's just not always going to be in the cards. So as a sports fan, if I had to choose, I would like the parity. But then again, it's like there is something to be said about Boston versus LA. Even if it's, whether it's baseball and I hate LA as a San Francisco fan, but I will admit it's very intriguing if it's New York versus LA or Boston versus LA, something like that, where it's like Celtics Lakers, if we're talking NBA. Gosh, it's hard to get better ratings than that. It just is, because even the casual fan.
But why not have both? I mean, you can have both. Look at the MLB. Last year, you did have the Dodgers and Yankees. What was the World Series the year before that? The Rangers and the D-backs. And D-backs, like the two most oddball teams.
And when the Giants won, it was the Rangers and the Giants, and you're like, what?
Right. And then Detroit stuck in another year, and you can have a balance of both. But again, that comes down to parity. And when they are the best teams, they're going to get there. And at the end of the day, guess what? The best players still want to gravitate towards those markets that are not only massive markets, but also have that history and legacy of being winners. That's why the LA Lakers, not only because they're LA and they have Hollywood and the lights and boobs and all that shit, but the fact that they have the legacy that is the LA Lakers with Kobe, Shaq, Kareem, Magic, so on and so forth. It's going to work itself out if you let it work out. I think the bigger concern right now is not focusing on the parity, because that can come with the CBA structures you have now. You got to focus on a league that is safe. And I can't believe I'm saying that about grown-ass men making way too much money right now for a league that's kind of been garbage for far too long, albeit the parity. It's just, again, the showmanship has been bad because of the way the game flows anymore. You can iron that out, and you still don't have to compromise the parity going forward with the structure. The physicality of the game isn't going to change that. You can still have the opportunities for these guys to shoot the lights out because they're just better shooters. It's not simply because of freedom of movement that they have more opportunities to shoot. Sure, that's part of it, but there are still ways to create. Guess what? If Steph Curry and these other guys can knock down threes 3 steps in from half court, physicality of the game is not going to change that.
Right. And with the finals and the final 4 teams in the playoffs, you didn't have your dead-eye shooting. I mean, you had teams that struggled. And when you look at the Timberwolves, even the Nuggets, the Pacers, the Knicks, There wasn't teams that, other than Steph Curry, they couldn't open it up that way, and I'm okay with that. Again, that's an anomaly. Steph Curry is just unreal, which
He's just getting
proves
older.
how he's and it proves how unreal he really is. When you look at when he's done, we'll have to do an episode literally just about him and where does he fall. He almost has to be in the top 10 of all time conversation because of how the game is completely different. You have to do it. It's crazy.
You can get Flight Reacts on the podcast. He said, "Look at Curry, man, second best player of all time."
Man, be crazy. Again, new episodes of Sports Edit Nation come to you every Monday and Thursday. We are recapping the NBA season. We're going to get out of here on this. 2 questions. And 1, what does Kevin Durant in Houston have to do for you to say it worked? And I'm not going to say, you can't say they won the NBA championship. Again, what is a realistic thing where you can say, okay, they were bounced first as the 2 seed. Right away, they were bounced. KD last year didn't even make the playoffs. So, in your opinion, what does it look like next year for you to say, hey, that actually worked out?
They have to have home court advantage in the first round. And the seeding from the regular season matters because with what we're seeing in postseason play, you can't just grab a 6 seed like Minnesota or 4 seed like Indiana. They still had home court advantage in the first round, but still has to be one of these top tier seeds that we see going in. They have a legitimate shot if everything's the same. If there's a bunch of injuries, they could fall into a deep run into the Western Conference playoffs, kind of like what we saw with Minnesota or Golden State. Either the 6 or 7 seed was going to make the finals because, well, they had some things go their way. I think that they have to have home court advantage in the first round, and then on top of that, they need to make the Western Conference finals.
Okay, so they need to make it to the Final Four in the NBA, and obviously that means
top 4 in the West, Final 4 overall, obviously with making the Western Conference Finals. But Adam, what say you?
I will say to be in the top 4, and I'll go 1 down from there. That they need to win a playoff series, but I think it is. I can't begrudge you for saying that they have to get to the Final 4. I'll just say they have to get to the Elite 8, but.
Yeah.
Here's
my thing is the fact that they were the 2 seed. They outperformed everyone's expectations this year. Similar to Cleveland, even to some degree Oklahoma City, because no one saw them win in 68 games this past year. They did great. They won the championship, got the MVP. Totally deserved, despite all the injuries. But losing to Golden State, just taking one step further to the Western Conference semifinals after all that to acquire KD. For me, they got to go to at least the Western Conference Finals.
Next level.
You need to take a big, not just one step, but you need to show that we were just a couple possessions or even a game away from making it to the NBA Finals. To me, it's like you got to show me more than just, hey, we got KD. Guess what? We can advance now. Cute.
Yeah. All right. You may have sold me. Let me ask you this: what are the chances that Cooper Flagg is not Rookie of the Year? Like 0.00001, like.
See, it's kind of hard because the dynamic with Kyrie being out, and at this juncture, we have to see who their point guard is going to be for much of the season. That's going to facilitate that team. If it's Chris Paul, I think he'll be fine with winning the MVP because Chris Paul is still going to have 6 to 7 assists a game. I think that actually matters a lot. I think Ace Bailey is not getting enough attention. I think a lot of people are overlooking him for his teammate in Dylan Harper out of Rutgers. I've watched both play. I've watched both play extensively because they were in the Big Ten this last year and watched Ace Bailey. Dylan Harper was out, but watched Ace Bailey play against IU and lose, shockingly. But Ace Bailey is that dude. The kid is sick. I think he's going to initially at least be better than Dylan Harper. I think Dylan Harper actually needs to improve his game more to be on his level, which 95% of people will disagree with that. But again, with watching what Ace Bailey can do, being that guy on a bad team is going to be electric. Whereas you have Cooper Flagg coming into not a horrible situation. He's not going to Utah. He's
LeBron
not going to Washington.
Yeah.
And now with that in mind, like we'll see what San Antonio does with Dylan Harper. That's one of those like, hey, do they end up landing a Giannis where it just you take him out completely, and then it opens the avenue for Ace Bailey, the one being on an actually bad team, to really take it over and fill it up. They won't make the playoffs, fine, but I think there is actually quite a good chance that Cooper Flagg doesn't win the Rookie of the Year. I was about to say MVP. I think there's a good chance he doesn't win the MVP either. But I will set the percentage, not necessarily the odds, but I'll set a percentage at Cooper Flagg's 60% chance to win Rookie of the Year, which I think is very, very low. But for those reasons, because he's going into a decent situation, he's not going to have to do as much as someone like Ace Bailey will have to do.
I think he wins it because the narrative will be pushed, and I think in the NBA you can get things done when the narrative is pushed. He's the first great white hype American since Larry Bird, honestly. So I just think that that's. He's not Keith Van Horn.
Still the favorite. Now, again, with my stats, I still say over. There are going to be 58 other drafted rookies and then more rookies, and I still give him greater than a 50-50 chance to win it. So he's still my pick, but I think there is a better chance than people realize that he may not win it. Not because he's not the best rookie. I think he's hands down the best player in this draft, but because of the situation he's going into, there's a chance where he just has the load taken off his back.
New episodes of Sports Idiot Nation are every Monday and Thursday. Be sure to check out Sports Idiot Nation wherever you get your social media. Remember, also stay tuned. Season 2 is rapidly approaching, and we have a really fun update regarding Season 2. So for Miles Behind Enemy Lines, I am Adam Marino, and we will see you Monday.
And the Clippers still suck.
Okay, all you sinners, follow Sports Idiot Nation on TikTok, X, and Instagram. Like us on Facebook, and remember, the most fun way to watch us is on YouTube every Monday and Thursday. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you can be updated when new content drops. Remember, the podcast can also be found on the usual suspects of Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Always remember, don't be an idiot.
Sinner.